This is Inside Real Estate with Terry Paranych. I'm Michael Crichton, and this is a show that's going to help those of you out there who are thinking of selling your home, what kinds of the things you need to think about in the do's and don'ts, and we couldn't have a better person than Terry Paranych. Not only is he one of the top 5 real estate agents in the world and worldwide, but he is considered a real estate expert, and you have helped thousands of people in terms of selling their home. You've spoken to tens of thousands of people in North America, including real estate agents, people who are buying and selling homes. Matter of fact, you've been building a home, so we'll have to talk about some of the things that maybe even you've learned along the way in your own right in terms of handling that sort of thing. The show today, we're going to focus on the biggest mistakes that people will make in selling a home, and I think a lot of people have some preconceptions as to what they should do. Let's walk through that. What would you say is the most common mistake people will make when it comes to selling their home?
Well, Mike, it all starts with often, and something you said earlier is one of the things that I do is I always tell the truth the first time. And if you look at 50% of the home sellers out there, why do their homes not sell the first time? And that's almost a North American average. Mm-hmm. So half the homes that go for sale don't sell the first time. Sometimes they'll have to hire another real estate agent and then sometimes another one before the home sells. And early in my career, I was told, go into a house, ask the seller what they want for their house, right, put it on the market, and away you go. Mm-hmm. Well, I did that, and then all of a sudden, I had some sellers that weren't too happy because nobody was looking at the house. And when I would do the follow-up with the real estate agents that would show the house, or I would show it, most of the buyers would say, well, this is like an overpriced turkey, and that's what we used to call them. So it all starts with telling the truth, and the biggest single mistake that home sellers make is they overprice their home. And I want to liken it to if you were to go to a dentist, Mike, and you had a really bad abscess tooth or a bad cavity or something was going on, mm-hmm. and would you basically go to the dentist and say, this is what I want you to do?
Right.
You probably wouldn't do that.
No,
the dentist would basically assess your situation, probably x-ray it and say, Mike, here's what we need to do, and you would say, no problem. The same if you hurt your wrist playing hockey or baseball or football or whatever, and all of a sudden you looked at an x-ray and the doctor said, well, Mike, you know what? We've got a broken bone. Here's what we're going to need to do. You wouldn't disagree with him, would you, if the x-ray clearly showed you had a broken bone? So why do 50% of home sellers, when we evaluate their home, mm-hmm. show them what comparable homes with comparable upgrades, basically the same ages of the house, why do 50% of the sellers disagree with us? Because it's emotion. So what the real estate agent has to do is explain to the consumer why overpricing is such a penalty, and who pays the penalty ultimately is that home seller, because the longer your home sits on the market, the less you're going to get.
You're watching Inside Real Estate with Terry Paranych. My name is Michael Crichton. Let's talk about the whole evolution of commission in the mind of the customer now. And we've seen the evolution of these services that are out there that offer commission-free.
Sure.
And I think there's a lot of myth.
Well, there's no such thing as commission-free.
There's a myth around that. Yeah. And it was something interesting that you said, because you said when you buy a service where they tell you there's no commission, what are you really buying?
Well, Michael, I mean, there are commission-free services that are not licensed or governed in any way. They represent themselves as real estate companies, but they're not. And what they do is they charge you several different upfront fees or a menu of upfront fees, and you get a nice-looking yard sign and a nice-looking brochure, and you get to be on a website, but you are left to sell that home on your own. No matter what they say, you're still on your own, and you don't have that professional representation of an educated real estate professional. That's one type of company. And then, of course, you have different menus of services that professional real estate agents can offer you. I know my home selling system, I'm a full-service, full-commission real estate mm-hmm. agent, and I'm proud of that. But, when I present my home selling system to people and I show them how much my team and I are going to do to sell their home, people don't have a problem paying us what we ask. Now, real estate commissions are fully negotiable, and I believe in good competition. Some real estate agents are going to offer a lesser commission because they offer a much lesser of a service.
Right.
But it all depends on the agent you're hiring. And I always say to people, if you're going to sell your home, interview 2, 3, or 4 real estate agents and choose somebody's system that's right for you.
Well, let's talk about that. Choosing a real estate agent. How does one go about that? What should we be looking for as consumers when we set out to market and say, okay, I want to put my house up for sale or my condo for sale? There's thousands of real estate agents.
Well, Mike, let me ask you this question. If you're going to go for a coffee, where are you going to go for a coffee?
Well,
where would you go for a coffee? Would you go to a Tim Hortons? Would you go to a Starbucks?
Yeah, a place that I kind of, it's a brand. I know
right. You'd go to a recognizable brand, but yet has a long-term established product, and they have what's called a predictable outcome. Yeah. Anytime you go to one of these establishments that I mentioned, that I'm not plugging Hortons or Starbucks, but the coffee is good and the service is good and you're in and out of there relatively quickly. Well, if you're a real estate agent that has no brand equity, nobody knows you, chances are they're not going to call you. But if you're a real estate agent, and of course this is our show, so I guess I'm going to talk about our system.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have hundreds of bus benches and billboards, and we send out 238,000 flyers. We have this television show. We have radio programs, several different things, and we have a track record of selling over 10,000 homes. So chances are people are going to say, you know what? That Terry Paranych, he's been in my area for 20 years, okay? He's sold a zillion houses. He's sold friends, family, neighbors, relatives' houses. Let's give him a call. Another way of doing it is calling an office and asking for somebody who works in that particular area. Or, in fact, usually people will phone somebody who's the brand of choice, somebody that is recognizable in their area.
Right.
When they drive to work, drive home from work, they see that person has for sale signs, sold signs, etc.
Now, let's in many ways you've begun to answer this question, but maybe we can break it down and drill down a little bit. And I think this is especially important, especially for those people that maybe are dealing with commission-free services. Pretty soon, if you haven't already found out, you've probably found out a few things that have made you realize, maybe I didn't know everything I should have known. How does a real estate agent help make things easier? Well,
first off, Mike, we're going to start with the price. We're going to come over with a professional evaluation, where I call the professional x-ray of your home and what's happening in the neighborhood. And how we do a professional evaluation is, prior to coming to your home, we gather lots of information. When was your home built? Right. And if it was, not too long ago, we'll find out who built the home. How big is it? How many bedrooms does it have? What sort of features does it have? What sort of upgrades does it have? And with the technology that's available to professional real estate agents, we can right away create a picture or a storyboard as to where that home is going to come into play from a pricing standpoint. Then what we'll do is we'll go over, and what I do is I ask the people to give me a grand tour. So when I come to somebody's house, I introduce myself, and I ask them to give me a grand tour of their home and share with me the special features that has been wonderful for them and their family. Right. Show me what you really appreciate about this home. The second question I ask is, what upgrades have been done, let's say over the course of the last 5 years, if they've been in the home longer than 5 years. Right. We'll take lots of notes. We'll look at the home. We'll come back to the kitchen table. I'll bring out the evaluation. We'll look at where the average sale price ends up in the neighborhood. And what we will do, and I work together with the home sellers, and we will basically select the price together. The one thing I will never do, Mike, is if a seller says to me, well, Terry, you know what? We've already decided we want to list with you. You're the top guy. It's all good. Charge us whatever you want to charge us, but this is what we want. I will never take that listing, because I will say, no, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, let's have a look to see what the real estate x-ray is saying. And once we do it together, what I find is almost 100% of the time that people will agree with me, because I tell the truth the first time about the price of their home. And that's what they want. Well, it's like over the course of years in my career, people say, give the customer what they want. Well, what they want is a successful result. They want the truth. Now, is it
that there are expectations quite often when you meet with someone, and of course they're going to have expectations when they meet with you because of your track record. But do you find often that their expectations sometimes are a little out of whack? Like, for example, maybe an oversimplified example, but let's say the market is very buoyant. So they're expecting their home should sell really fast because I had my friend or my in-law, they just had a house like mine and, another, subdivision, and it's sold like that. So I would imagine my house should be able to sell that quickly. How do you handle that with a client like that?
Well, first thing we do, Mike, again, we get back to looking at the price.
Yep.
So what we want to do is we want to look at what identifiable comparable homes in the neighborhood have recently sold for. So if in fact a week ago or 3 days ago or 2 weeks ago or a month ago, and when the market is very buoyant, that's a great point. Usually we can find some houses within the last 21 to 30 days, somewhere in that neighborhood, that have recently sold, and we can truly identify where their home is going to sell. And in a buoyant market, Mike, what will usually happen, a lot of people think that we should just overprice our house. That's the worst thing you can do. You want to price it to market because, you see, what happens, real estate is like going fishing. Mm-hmm. When you put your home on the market, you're basically the hook. So you drop the hook in the water, and there's been a lot of fish that have swimming around, but they haven't seen your hook yet. They've looked at all the other hooks. Some of those fish have bitten other hooks or bought those other houses. But the minute your hook goes in the water, the first 7 days of putting your home on the market are the most important. That's why it's so important to price it correctly, because a lot of the time, more than one of those fish are going to bite the hook at the same time. And what does that do? Drives the price up.
Absolutely. You're watching Inside Real Estate with Terry Paranych, one of the top 5 real estate agents in the world and worldwide, but more importantly, a real estate expert. Well, you've also gotten involved in the rental market as well. You know a lot about homes, especially. So maybe in the few minutes that we have left, someone getting prepared to sell, besides researching and looking for a real estate agent, what are maybe 2 or 3 other things that homeowners should think about doing and preparing to sell their home?
Well, I wrote a special report years ago, how to prepare your home for sale to attain the highest possible sale price. And these were simple things, Mike. I would come to somebody's house and, it was all cluttered up, and the grass wasn't cut, and, perhaps some of the trim wasn't painted. A lot of the time, one simple weekend, number one, unclutter. You want each room to be, all the furniture positioned nicely. You want, if you've got hardwood floors, you want them to be gleaming. If you've got old carpets, sometimes it's good to, if you can't clean that old carpet, get rid of that carpet, replace the flooring. Kitchens, everybody loves kitchens. And your kitchen has to gleam. And sometimes even if you have older kitchen cabinets, that's okay. But as long as the kitchen is clean, sometimes people can't afford to put money into their house.
Right.
So cleanliness is so important. So some of the first things I'm going to say is, make sure that the home sparkles on the outside. Cut that grass. Make sure the flower beds are nice. If you've got an old rickety front door, replace it. Home Depot, Rona, Lowe's. It doesn't cost a lot of money to do that.
Right.
So the home is inviting when they pull up to the curb. Once they get inside, make sure the home is uncluttered. Make sure it's clean. Make sure it smells nice. If you have pets, get those pets out of there before there's a showing. And usually now, real estate agents will give you plenty of notice so you know when they're coming. But I know several times, Mike, in my career when I was working with buyers, I'd come into a home and the curb appeal wasn't great, and my clients were hesitant. Maybe we shouldn't look at it. And I'm like, guys, we want to look at everything. So we get a great education as to what's out there. We'd walk in the door, and we'd all go, no, and we'd turn around. So very important to take that little bit of advice that I just gave you.
Okay, to wrap things up, I think always an interesting challenge is quite often when you say clients, you're really talking about a husband and a wife,
yes,
husband and a
family,
girlfriend, a husband and someone you're having an affair with maybe. But either way, 2 people and 2 very different personalities.
Yes.
I know it's hard to boil it down to one thing, but when you're dealing with that kind of situation, how do you handle it?
Well, something, one of the things that my team and I do is we do an intensive buyer interview. We find out exactly what people want. Then we go out and preview the properties prior to showing them. So if all of a sudden you said, I don't want gold wallpaper and red carpet, well, we're not going to all of a sudden show you a house that has that. But that's where a lot of real estate agents will make their mistake. They don't spend the time truly doing a buyer interview, identifying what the buyer wants, and then all of a sudden they show the buyer exactly what they don't want. And what I usually find is, yes, the ladies usually get their way, but you know what? Simply sit down. You know what? But you can easily easily satisfy both the husband and the wife and the entire family if you truly know what they want. And go out as a professional real estate agent, and this is advice for you guys, preview properties. So if you're going to take somebody out and show 4 or 5 houses tonight, show them the best 4 or 5 in their price range, and you will be successful. Everybody will be successful. Number one, the buyers are going to find the home of their dreams. And, of course, the real estate agent is going to be a happy agent because he sold those wonderful people their first house or second or third, whatever it may be.
We've been taking a look at some of the selling mistakes that people will make, but don't make the mistake of talking to anyone else. Who you want to talk to is Terry Paranych and the Terry Paranych team, because you are dealing with, well, years and years of success, but also a system and a proven system that works every time. And as you say, you give people the truth up front, which is really the most important thing. What is your house really worth on the market? We'll be talking about these kinds of things in episodes to come. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside Real Estate with Terry Paranych. I'm Michael Crichton.